The night was quiet in the small town of Riverside. Most people were already in bed, their lights turned off. But John Miller was still awake. He walked outside to put his trash in the bin. The cool night air felt good after being inside all day. John looked up at the sky and saw a strange light. It moved in a way that normal planes didn't move. It zigzagged and then stopped completely before zooming off again. Weird, John said to himself. Must be a drone or something. He went back inside his small blue house, locked the door, and got ready for bed. John had no idea that what he saw wasn't a drone. It was something from very far away, something that had never visited Earth before. High above the town, hidden by clouds, a large ship hovered. Inside the ship, creatures with scales and sharp teeth looked at screens showing the town below. They were called the Krauser, and they came from a planet many light years away. The Krauser were hunters. On their home planet, they were the strongest. Predators, over many years, they built ships and weapons. They traveled to other planets and took over many worlds. Now, they had come to Earth to see if they should take over this planet too. The leader of the ship, Commander Vexter, stood tall. His scales were dark red, and his eyes were yellow with black slits like a cat's eyes. He had sharp claws and teeth and a tail with spikes. He wore armor made of metal and carried weapons no human had ever seen. What have we found? Vexter asked his crew. A smaller Krauser with green scales pointed to a screen. This planet has many different life forms. The dominant ones appear to be these soft creatures without scales or claws. The screen showed people walking in the town during the day. Vexter made a sound like a laugh. They look weak, but we must be careful. Send Krell to gather more information. Krell was the best hunter among the Krauser. He had conquered 3 planets by himself and had killed creatures 10 times his size. His scales were black with blue markings, and he moved so quietly that even other Krauser couldn't hear him coming. I am ready, Commander, Krell said, bowing his head. Good. Take your best equipment. Study these creatures. Learn their weaknesses. Do not be seen, Vexter ordered. Krell put on special armor that could make him invisible. He took weapons that could cut through metal and devices that could record everything he saw and heard. I will return with all the information we need to conquer this world, Krell promised. A small pod took Krell from the main ship down to Earth. It landed in the woods behind John Miller's neighborhood. The pod was designed to make no sound and leave no marks. As soon as Krell stepped out, the pod closed and buried itself under the ground. Krell activated his invisibility armor. The night was perfect for hunting. The darkness gave him extra cover, and the light wind carried away his scent. He moved through the woods like a shadow, his feet making no sound on the fallen leaves. He reached the edge of the woods and saw houses lined up along a street. Lights glowed in some windows. Krell used a device to scan the area. It showed him where all living things were. He could see people inside their homes, most of them sleeping. Too easy, Krell thought. These creatures have no idea what's coming. He decided to enter one of the houses to study how these Earth creatures lived. He chose John Miller's house because it was closest to the woods. The back door had a simple lock. Krell used a tool that could open any lock without making noise. He slipped inside and found himself in a kitchen. Everything was strange to him. He didn't know what refrigerators or stoves were. He only knew they were not weapons, so he ignored them. Krell moved into the living room. He saw a couch, a television, and pictures on the walls. He scanned everything with his devices. The Krauser scientists on the ship would study all this information. Upstairs, John Miller was sleeping in his bed. He had no idea that an alien was walking around in his house. But someone else in the house did know. Milo, John's orange cat, was curled up at the foot of the bed. His ears suddenly perked up. His eyes opened wide. He lifted his head and sniffed the air. Something was wrong. Something was in the house that shouldn't be there. Milo had been a stray cat before John found him last year. Life on the streets had made Milo tough and smart. He knew how to sense danger. And right now, every hair on his body told him there was danger downstairs. Quietly, Milo stood up. He stretched his body and then jumped silently from the bed to the floor. He walked to the bedroom door, which was slightly open, and slipped through the gap in the hallway. Milo paused. His whiskers twitched as he tried to locate the intruder. His sharp ears caught a faint sound from downstairs. Something was moving in the living room. Something that tried to be quiet but wasn't quiet enough to fool a cat. Milo crept down the stairs, staying close to the wall where the steps made less noise. His green eyes, perfect for seeing in the dark, scanned the living room. At first, he saw nothing unusual. But cats can sense more than what they see. Milo could feel that something was there, moving around. Something invisible. Krell was examining a bookshelf when he got a strange feeling. In all his years of hunting, he had developed instincts that warned him of danger. Right now, those instincts were telling him he was being watched. He turned around, slowly scanning the room. His devices showed nothing dangerous nearby. Just a small creature sitting on the bottom step of the stairs. It was Milo, staring directly at where Krell stood, even though Krell was invisible. Just a small animal, Krell thought, not a threat. But something bothered him. The creature was looking right at him, not through him or past him. Its eyes were focused exactly where he stood. Impossible, Krell thought. My invisibility is perfect. Milo's tail began to twitch back and forth. His body lowered, preparing to pounce. He saw not with his eyes, but with all his senses combined. He could smell the strange scent, hear the soft movements, and feel the subtle changes in the air where the invisible intruder stood. Krell decided to ignore the small creature and continue his mission. That was his first mistake on planet Earth. He turned his back on Milo. And Milo, sensing the perfect moment to strike, tensed his muscles and prepared to defend his territory from the strange intruder that thought it could hunt in a cat's domain. Milo launched himself from the stairs. His small body flew through the air with perfect aim. Krell had no time to react. He felt something land on his back, followed by sharp claws digging through his armor. Krell spun around, trying to grab the creature, but Milo was too quick. He jumped off and landed on the coffee table, knocking over a cup. The cup fell to the floor and broke. What is happening? Krell thought. No creature had ever detected him while he was invisible. No creature had ever attacked him first. He was always the hunter, never the hunted. Milo's eyes followed Krell's every move. The cat's back was arched, his fur standing on end. He let out a low, threatening growl. Krell pulled out a small weapon. It could stun creatures without killing them. He aimed it at the cat, but before he could use it, Milo jumped again. This time, the cat landed on Krell's arm and bit down hard. Pain shot through Krell's arm. He dropped the weapon and hissed in anger. He swung his arm, throwing Milo across the room. The cat twisted in midair and landed on his feet against the wall, then immediately crouched again, ready for another attack. Upstairs, John heard the noise. He sat up in bed, listening. He heard another crash from downstairs. Milo? John called out. What are you doing down there? Krell knew he had to leave. His mission was to observe without being detected. But this small earth creature had somehow seen through his invisibility and forced him to make noise. He backed toward the door, keeping his eyes on Milo. The cat followed, moving sideways, never taking his eyes off the invisible intruder. Krell reached the kitchen and fumbled for the door handle behind him. Milo saw his chance. He rushed forward and slid between Krell's legs, then clawed his way up the alien's body to his shoulder. Krell felt sharp teeth sink into his neck, right where his scales were thinnest. With a roar of pain, Krell grabbed Milo and threw him off. The cat hit the refrigerator but landed on his feet again. Krell wrenched the door open and ran outside, slamming it behind him. John came down the stairs, turning on lights as he went. Milo? What's going on? He found his cat in the kitchen, sitting calmly and licking his paw as if nothing had happened. But John saw the broken cup in the living room and the scratches on the back door. Did someone try to break in? John wondered. He checked all the doors and windows but found no signs of forced entry. Everything was locked from the inside. John was confused but eventually went back to bed, taking Milo with him. Outside, Krell ran through backyards until he reached the woods. His neck and arm were bleeding. His invisibility armor was damaged. He touched a button on his wrist, calling. For extraction, a small pod emerged from the ground and opened. Krell climbed inside, and it took off, returning to the main ship. On the ship, Commander Vexler was not pleased. "You were discovered? By what? Their military?" "No, Commander," Krell said, embarrassed. "By a small furry creature. It lives with the humans. It could see me even though I was invisible." The other Krauser in the room looked at each other in disbelief. Vexler's eyes narrowed. "Show me," he ordered. Krell connected his recording device to the main screen. The video showed the living room from Krell's perspective. Then it showed Milo staring directly at the camera, his green eyes focused and alert. The video ended with a blur as Milo attacked. "What is this creature?" Vexler asked. A Krauser scientist stepped forward. "Based on our scans, the humans call it a cat. They keep these animals in their dwellings. We thought they were pets or perhaps food sources." "They are not food," Krell said. "This one protected the dwelling. It knew I was an intruder." Vexler turned to the scientist. "How did it see through our invisibility technology?" "I don't know, Commander," the scientist admitted. "Our invisibility bends light and masks heat signatures. Perhaps this creature uses other senses we don't understand." "I want to know everything about these cats," Vexler ordered. "And Krell, you will go back tomorrow night. But this time you will capture one of these creatures for study." Krell touched the wound on his neck. "Yes, Commander." The next morning, John woke up with Milo curled beside his head. The cat had stayed closed all night, which was unusual. Normally, Milo roamed the house while John slept. "You were busy last night, weren't you?" John said, petting Milo's head. "Chasing ghosts?" Milo purred but kept looking toward the window. His tail twitched every few seconds. John got up and went through his morning routine. He fed Milo, made coffee, and checked his emails. It was Saturday, so he didn't have to go to work. He planned to do some gardening and then watch the baseball game on TV, but Milo was acting strange. The cat kept going from window to window, looking outside. He wouldn't eat his food. When John opened the back door to take out more trash, Milo didn't try to run outside like he usually did. "What's gotten into you?" John asked. Around noon, John's neighbor, Linda Gomez, came over to return a lawnmower she had borrowed. She noticed Milo sitting in the window, staring intently outside. "Your cat seems worried about something," Linda said. "He's been acting weird since last night," John replied. "I heard some crashes downstairs and found a broken cup. I thought someone might have tried to break in, but all the doors and windows were locked." Linda knelt down and held out her hand to Milo, who ignored her completely. "You know, cats are supposed to be able to see things we can't. My grandmother used to say they can see spirits." John laughed. "I don't believe in ghosts." "Not ghosts necessarily," Linda said. "But they can sense things before we do, like earthquakes or storms." After Linda left, John checked the weather forecast on his phone. No storms were predicted. He tried to put Milo's strange behavior out of his mind and went outside to work in his garden. Meanwhile, on the Krauser ship, preparations were being made. Krell's armor was repaired and enhanced. New weapons were designed specifically to capture small, fast creatures alive. The scientists studied all the information they had collected about Earth's cats. "They have excellent night vision," one scientist explained to Krell. "Their whiskers can detect air movements. Their hearing is much better than humans. They can hear frequencies up to 64,000 hertz. Can they see through our invisibility?" Krell asked. "Not exactly," the scientist said. "But they might sense the displacement of air as you move, or hear the subtle sounds of your equipment." "They might smell your alien scent?" Krell nodded. "Then I will move more carefully. I will mask my scent, and I will be ready for an attack." As the sun began to set on Earth, John noticed Milo sitting by the back door, his ears perked forward, his body completely still. The cat was waiting for something or someone, and in orbit above Earth, Krell prepared to return to John's house. This time, he would not underestimate the small creature that had humiliated him. This time he would be the hunter again. Night fell over Riverside. John sat in his living room watching TV, but he couldn't focus on the show. Milo was acting even stranger now. The cat paced around the house, looking into dark corners and hissing at empty spaces. Every few minutes, he would run to a window, press his nose against the glass, and then run to another window. "Maybe I should take you to the vet," John said. He reached out to pet Milo, but the cat ducked away and resumed his patrol of the house. Outside, hidden in the shadows of the trees, Krell watched John's house. His new armor was better than before. It not only made him invisible, but also masked his scent and reduced the sound of his movements. On his belt, he carried a special cage designed to trap small animals. Krell waited patiently. From his position, he could see John through the windows, but he couldn't see the cat. The Krauser. Hunter decided to wait until the human went to sleep before entering the house again. As the hours passed, John grew tired. He turned off the TV and went upstairs to bed. Milo followed him but stopped at the top of the stairs. The cat turned and looked back down into the dark living room. "Come on, Milo," John called. But Milo wouldn't move. John shrugged and went into his bedroom. He left the door open a crack so Milo could come in if he wanted to. Soon, John was asleep. Milo stayed at the top of the stairs, his eyes fixed on the back door. His ears were forward, his body tense. He knew the strange creature would return. He could feel it. Outside, Krell moved silently across the yard. He reached the back door and used his tools to unlock it, just as he had done the night before. The door opened without a sound. Krell slipped inside and closed it behind him. The house was dark and quiet. Krell activated his night vision and scanned the kitchen. No sign of the cat? He moved carefully into the living room, staying alert for any movement. Upstairs, Milo heard the faint click of the door closing. His tail swished once, then he crept down the stairs, keeping low to the ground. He could sense the intruder in the living room. Krell felt uneasy. The house seemed too quiet. He pulled out a small device and pressed a button. The device began to emit a sound too high for humans to hear, but one that would be painful for a cat. But Milo didn't appear. Krell waited, confused. The device should have driven the cat out of hiding. He moved further into the living room, looking around. What Krell didn't know was that Milo had lived on the streets. He had survived loud noises, pain, and hunger. The high-pitched sound hurt his ears, but he ignored it. He had a more important job to do. He had to protect his home and his human. Milo crept along the wall, staying in the shadows. He circled. Behind Krell, the cat could sense exactly where the invisible alien was standing. Milo's whiskers detected the slight movements in the air. His nose picked up the strange scent despite Krell's new armor. Krell switched off the device. It wasn't working. He would have to find the cat another way. He began to move toward the stairs, planning to search the upper floor. That's when Milo struck. He didn't attack Krell directly this time. Instead, he ran across the room and jumped on a shelf. Books and picture frames fell to the floor with a loud crash. Krell spun around, startled by the noise. He saw the cat on the shelf, staring directly at him again. Milo knocked more items off the shelf, creating more noise upstairs. John woke up. "Milo?" he called out sleepily. "What are you doing now?" Krell realized the cat was trying to wake the human. He quickly pulled out his cage and moved toward Milo, but the cat jumped down and ran under the couch. John got out of bed and came to the top of the stairs. "Milo, is that you making noise down there?" Krell froze. He couldn't let the human see him. His mission would be ruined if he had to harm the human. Milo continued his plan. He darted out from under the couch and ran to another shelf. He jumped up and knocked over a vase. It fell and shattered on the floor. "Milo!" John turned on the hallway light and started down the stairs. Krell knew he had to act fast. He moved to intercept the cat, the cage ready in his hands. But Milo was playing a smarter game. The cat ran to the bottom of the stairs and sat there, blocking John's path down. John saw Milo sitting on the step. "There you are? What's gotten into you? Why are you breaking things?" Milo meowed loudly and looked back into the living room. John followed the cat's gaze but saw nothing. "Is there something in the living room?" John asked. He started to move. Past Milo, but the cat hissed and swatted at his legs. Ouch! Milo, stop that! John pulled back, confused by his cat's behavior. Milo continued to block the stairs, not letting John come down. The cat knew the invisible creature was dangerous. He had to keep John away from it. Krell saw his chance. While the human was distracted by the cat, he could escape. He moved slowly toward the back door, but Milo noticed the slight movement in the air. The cat darted past John and ran into the living room. He jumped and landed on Krell's back again, claws digging in deep. Krell yelled in pain. The sound was like nothing John had ever heard before. It wasn't human or animal, it was alien. John froze on the stairs. What was that? Krell tried to grab Milo, but the cat was too quick. He jumped off and landed on the coffee table. Then, before Krell could react, Milo pushed a heavy glass bowl off the table. The bowl fell through the air and hit something solid that John couldn't see. There was a crackling sound like electricity, and for a split second John saw a flash of something, a tall figure with scales and armor. What the? John stumbled back up a few steps. Krell's invisibility armor was damaged again. It flickered, making him partially visible for brief moments. He abandoned his mission and ran for the door. Milo chased after him, determined not to let him escape this time. The cat jumped and caught Krell's leg just as the alien reached the kitchen. John, seeing flashes of something strange moving across his living room, grabbed his phone to call for help. But who would believe him? Who could he even call? In the kitchen, Krell kicked out, trying to dislodge the cat from his leg. Milo held on, biting and clawing. Krell hit the kitchen table, knocking it over with a loud crash. Hello, police? John said into his phone. There's someone in my house, or ... something, I don't know what it is. Krell finally reached the back door. With one powerful movement, he threw Milo off his leg. The cat hit the wall, but immediately bounced back, ready to attack again, but Krell was already out the door. He ran across the yard and disappeared into the woods. Milo sat by the back door, tail swishing angrily. He had failed to capture the intruder, but he had protected John. He had done his job. John came downstairs carefully, still on the phone with the police. He turned on all the lights and looked around at the mess-broken vase, overturned furniture, books on the floor. Yes, I'll wait for the officers to arrive, he told the police. He looked at Milo, who was now calmly licking his paw. I have no idea what just happened, but I think my cat just saved me from ... something. In the woods, Krell touched his wrist to call for extraction. His armor was damaged, his pride was wounded, and he had failed his mission again. And all because of one small earth creature that refused to be hunted. The police searched John's house but found nothing unusual. They wrote in their report that it was probably just a raccoon that got inside. John knew better. He had seen something strange, something that appeared and disappeared. But he didn't tell the police that part. They would think he was crazy. After the police left, John couldn't sleep. He sat in his living room with all the lights on, a baseball bat next to him. Milo sat in his lap, purring softly. The cat seemed calm now as if the danger had passed. What did you see, Milo? John asked, scratching behind the cat's ears. What was in our house? On the Krauser ship, Commander Wexler was furious. Krell stood before him, head bowed in shame. Twice. Wexler shouted. Twice you have been defeated by a small furry creature. You, our best hunter? This is no ordinary animal, Commander, Krell said. It is intelligent. It planned its attacks. It knew how to wake the human to help it. Wexler paced back and forth. Our mission is at risk. If humans discover our presence too soon, they might unite against us. We need more time to study their weaknesses. A Krauser scientist stepped forward. Commander, I have been analyzing the data from Krell's encounters with this cat. I believe we have underestimated these creatures. Explain, Wexler ordered. The scientist showed images of cats on a large screen. These animals evolved as predators, just like us. They have many of the same hunting skills we value: stealth, patience, quick reflexes. But they have adapted To live with humans, they have formed an alliance. An alliance? Vexter looked skeptical. Yes, the scientist continued. The humans provide food and shelter. In return, the cats protect the humans' territory from small pests. It is a partnership between two different types of predators. Vexter thought for a moment. If what you say is true, then these cats are not just pets, they are allies. And that makes them even more dangerous. The commander turned to Krell. You will go back one more time, but this time you will not go alone. Take a team. Capture both the cat and its human. We need to understand this alliance. The next morning, John called in sick to work. He couldn't leave the house, not after what happened. He kept thinking about the strange noises and the flashes of something. He couldn't quite see. Was he losing his mind? He called his neighbor, Linda. Can you come over? I need to talk to someone. Linda arrived 20 minutes later. She found John looking tired and worried. Milo was sitting in the window, staring outside as if on guard duty. What happened? Linda asked. You look terrible. John told her about the strange events of the past 2 nights. He told her about Milo's unusual behavior and the noises in the night. He even told her about seeing something appear and disappear. The police think it was a raccoon, but I know it wasn't, John finished. It was something else. Linda didn't laugh at him like he expected. Instead, she looked thoughtful. You know, my grandmother had stories from her homeland about spirit creatures that could become invisible. She said cats could always see them. You think it's a spirit? John asked. I don't know, Linda admitted. But I do know that cats have senses we don't understand. They can hear things we can't hear, see things we can't see. As they talked, Milo suddenly jumped down from the window. His back arched and he hissed at the front door. John and Linda looked at each other. It's the middle of the day, John said. Quietly. Whatever it is, it's never come during the day before. Outside John's house, Krell and 2 other Krauser warriors approached. All 3 wore the improved invisibility armor. They carried weapons and cages. This time, they would not fail. The human called for help, one warrior said, pointing to Linda's car in the driveway. There are 2 of them inside now. It doesn't matter, Krell replied. We will take them both. Inside, Milo ran to John and jumped in his lap. The cat looked up at him and meowed loudly as if trying to tell him something. He's warning us, Linda said. She stood up. We should leave. Now, John didn't argue. He picked up Milo and headed for the back door. Linda followed close behind. But when John tried to open the door, it wouldn't move. It's stuck, he said, pulling harder, outside. One of the Krauser warriors was holding the door shut with his strength. The aliens had surrounded the house, blocking all exits. Try the front door, Linda suggested. They rushed to the front of the house, but that door wouldn't open either. They were trapped. Milo jumped from John's arms and ran to the living room. Window. He pawed at it frantically. He wants us to go out the window, Linda said. John didn't question it. He trusted Milo now. He opened the window and helped Linda climb out. Then he picked up Milo and handed him to Linda before climbing out himself. They ran to Linda's car. As John looked back at his house, he saw something strange. The air seemed to shimmer and move in unnatural ways. There were shapes there, just barely visible. Drive, he told Linda as he got into the passenger seat with Milo in his lap. Drive fast. Linda started the car and sped away. In her rearview mirror, she thought she saw strange figures in front of John's house, but when she blinked, they were gone. Where are we going? She asked. I don't know, John admitted. But we can't stay here, not with those ... things after. U.S., Milo settled in John's lap. Purring softly as if to say everything would be okay, on the Krauser ship, Commander Vexler received the bad news. The humans and the cat had escaped. The mission had failed again. This changes everything, Vexler said. If one small cat can cause this much trouble, imagine what would happen if we tried to conquer the whole planet. There must be millions of these cats living with humans. The commander made a decision. We need to rethink our approach. These humans and their cat allies are more formidable than we thought. Meanwhile, Linda drove to her sister's house in the next town. Her sister, Diane was surprised to see them. We need a place to stay for a few days, Linda explained. John's house has some problems. Of course you can stay, Diane said. She looked at Milo. I didn't know you had a cat. He's not just a cat, John said, stroking Milo's fur. He saved my life twice. That night, as John slept on Diane's couch with Milo curled up beside him, he had a strange dream. In the dream, he saw the shapes he had glimpsed at his house. They were tall creatures with scales and sharp teeth. They looked like predators, hunters from another world, and in the dream, these creatures were afraid of Milo. John woke up early the next morning. Milo was still asleep next to him on the couch. The cat looked peaceful, not at all like the fierce defender who had faced invisible enemies in the kitchen. Linda and her sister Diane were making coffee. So what's your plan? Diane asked John when he joined them. I don't know, John admitted. I can't go back to my house. Not with those things there? You could call the police again, Diane suggested. John shook his head. They didn't believe me the first time. They won't believe me now. Linda put a mug of coffee in front of John. What about that scientist who lives on Oak Street? Dr. Frank Clark. He studies strange things, doesn't he? The astronomy guy. John thought about it. You're right. Maybe he would believe us. Dr. Clark was well known in their town. He had worked for NASA before retiring to teach at the local college. He had a small observatory in his backyard and often gave talks about space and the possibility of life on other planets. After breakfast, John, Linda, and Milo drove to Dr. Clark's house. The old scientist answered the door wearing a bathrobe and slippers. Dr. Clark, we need your help, John said. Something strange is happening. Something not from Earth. To John's surprise, Dr. Clark didn't look shocked or skeptical. Instead, he nodded and invited them inside. I've been expecting something like this, Dr. Clark said as he led them to his study. For the past 3 nights, I've observed an unusual object in orbit around Earth. It's not one of our satellites. He showed them pictures he had taken with his telescope. The images showed a dark shape against the stars, too big to be a satellite, too small to be the moon. I believe it's a ship, Dr. Clark said. A ship from another world. That's what's been in my house, John said. Invisible creatures from that ship. They've been after Milo. Dr. Clark looked at the orange cat, who was exploring the study. Your cat? Why would aliens be interested in a cat? John told him everything, how Milo had sensed the invisible intruders, how he had fought them off, how they had come back with more aliens. Dr. Clark listened carefully. When John finished, the scientist looked thoughtful. Fascinating, he said. If these aliens are predators as you describe, they might see cats as competitors or threats. Cats are perfect hunters in many ways, patient, stealthy, adaptable. But why come to my house? John asked. Why Milo specifically? Perhaps it was just chance, Dr. Clark suggested. Your house may have been the first one they investigated. And once your cat confronted them, they became fixated on him. Meanwhile, on the Krazo ship, a heated debate was taking place. We should send more warriors, one officer argued. We can capture thousands of these cats and study them. No, Vexler said firmly. We came here to assess if this planet was suitable for conquest. What we've learned is that it is not. Not because of the humans' technology, but because of their alliance with these small predators. Krell, standing nearby with bandages on his wounds, spoke up. Commander, I agree. These cats are unlike any creatures we've encountered. They sense us when nothing else can. They are fearless. And they live in human homes everywhere. Vexler made his decision. We will leave this planet. We will mark it as protected in our star charts. Earth has developed something we never considered: cooperative predation. 2 different species working together, combining their strengths. The other Krauser were shocked. They had never retreated from a potential conquest before. There is no shame in recognizing a superior strategy, Vexler told them. Perhaps we have something to learn from Earth. Back at Dr. Clark's house, they were trying to figure out what to do next. If these aliens can become invisible, how can we fight them? Linda asked. Dr. Clark was about to answer when Milo suddenly jumped onto a table. The cat's ears were perked up, his tail swishing slowly. He was looking out the window at the sky. John, Linda, and Dr. Clark followed his gaze. There, visible even in daylight, was a bright light moving across the sky. It grew brighter and brighter, then suddenly shot upward and disappeared. "They're leaving," Dr. Clark said softly. "They're going back to space. How do you know?" Linda asked. "The trajectory, the speed. That was not one of our spacecraft." Dr. Clark looked at Milo with new respect. "Your cat knew it too." Milo jumped down from the table and walked to John, rubbing against his legs and purring. "Is it over?" John asked. "Are they gone for good?" "I believe so," Dr. Clark said. "Whatever they wanted, whatever they were looking for, they've given up." John picked up Milo and held him close. "All because of you, buddy. You scared off aliens from another world." 2 days later, John returned to his house. The police had checked it again and found nothing unusual. Everything was back to normal. John still felt nervous as he unlocked the door, but Milo walked in. Confidently, tail held high, the cat did a quick patrol of the house, checking all the rooms, then came back to John and meowed as if to say, "All clear." Life slowly returned to normal. John went back to work. Milo went back to his regular routine of napping, eating, and looking out windows. But sometimes John would catch Milo staring up at the night sky, watching the stars with unusual interest. A month later, Dr. Clark invited John, Linda, and Milo to his observatory. He had been tracking unusual signals from deep space. "I believe they're messages," Dr. Clark explained as he adjusted his equipment, "and they began right after our visitors left." "What kind of messages?" John asked. "I'm not sure yet. But they're directed toward other star systems, not toward Earth. It's as if our visitors are warning others about us." Dr. Clark smiled, "Or more specifically about our cats." Milo sat on the observatory desk, watching the screens with seeming understanding. When a new signal appeared, his ears perked up. "You know," John said, petting Milo gently, "I always thought we humans domesticated cats thousands of years ago. But now I wonder if it wasn't the other way around." "Maybe they chose to live with us," Dr. Clark nodded. "A mutually beneficial alliance between two types of predators. Together we're stronger than either species alone." Linda scratched under Milo's chin. "And apparently scary enough to make aliens run away." That night, John looked up at the stars from his backyard. Milo sat beside him on the porch railing. "Somewhere up there, the Krauser were telling others about Earth, and it's unusual. Defenders. Somewhere up there, aliens were afraid of house cats." John reached over and stroked Milo's fur. "Thanks for protecting me, buddy." Milo purred in response, his eyes still fixed on the stars, a small guardian ready to defend his home against any threat, even the most dangerous predators from the farthest reaches of space.